Welcome back to How to Grow Your Cleaning Business with me, a guy on the internet talking to you through your screen. Hope you're doing good. Today we are going to look at end of tenancy cleaning and some of the problems associated with end of tenancy cleaning and some of the solutions, some of the things we can do to make these problems disappear. So, end of tenancy cleaning. What is end of tenancy cleaning? Well, as the name suggests, it is a clean that is carried out at the end of a tenancy. So someone is renting a property, a house, a flat, whatever it may be, and as part of the terms of their contract to rent that property, they have to have a clean carried out at the end of the tenancy, and that is known as an end of tenancy clean. So this is not a standard type of clean, it is a deep clean. So the point of it is to get the property back into the condition it was in at the start of that tenancy agreement. So depending on how the tenant has behaved during that tenancy, how they have maintained the property, how clean they have kept it, a property may be in a number of different conditions. Sometimes you'll go to an end of tenancy clean and it is already perfectly clean and you have to just still go through the motions, but it's an easy job. Sometimes it's an absolute mess, shall we say. That's the polite way of saying it. It's a mess hole of a place and a lot of work is required. So let's have a look at some of the problems that I have experienced with my cleaning business, and I'm sure you have experienced them also. And if you haven't, maybe you're looking to get into this sort of business, into a cleaning business where you're going to be carrying out end of tenancy cleans, and you're sure to run into these problems. So it's good to have a heads up so you know how to deal with them and how to avoid them altogether or limit them, make the chance of them happening as small as possible. So the good thing about end of tenancy cleaning is they are high paying jobs. So compared to regular domestic cleaning jobs, you can make far more money off of one end of tenancy cleaning job. Now, obviously with that comes more work in a different sense. So they take longer to do. They are a more thorough clean, a deeper clean, and different tasks are involved in that clean that you wouldn't typically be doing on a regular everyday domestic clean. So we're all on the same page now. We know what it is. We understand that it is a deep clean. Okay, so let's have a little look at some of the problems we may encounter. So when you are getting into end of tenancy cleaning, you're going to find yourselves in situations where you've got the tenant, so that's your customer. You've got the letting agent or landlord, so they are responsible for that property, and then you've got you, the cleaning business owner. And typically, or not typically, ideally you would just want this relationship here between you and the tenant, or just between you and the letting agent. So you want a one-to-one relationship, a one-to-one sort of agreement with a customer. But where things can get sticky is where all three of these parties kind of get involved with each other's business, and it can become a little bit tricky. So I'm going to look into detail and go into some of the problems that we have had, and we're going to look at how to solve them. So the main problem, should I say, is that when a tenant moves into a property, the house is typically, or flat, is typically in a very clean condition. Okay, typically, not always the case, but they move in and they have what is known as an inventory check-in, and someone, normally from an external company, will come in and do an inventory, and they'll take note of the condition of the property and everything that's in the property, if there's any damage, if it's dirty, if it's anything that's worth noting. They will have their own list of all of those things and they will take note of that. The problem comes is as someone occupies a property, they may be there for a number of years, and during that time, typically they're not going to be keeping it in exactly the same condition, because there'll be things that they don't even know that they need to be cleaning or maintaining. And sometimes people are just quite filthy and a property can get into a really bad condition sometimes. I must stress that point. Sometimes, not always, but sometimes. And I'm sure if you have experienced this yourself, you'll go to properties that look like they're perfectly clean, and you'll go to some properties that look filthy. So it depends on the customer, but it poses a problem because you win the job. That's you, the business owner. You're happy, you've got the job. You go to the job and you carry out the job. Now, if it's really dirty, you're gonna find yourself, whether you consciously or subconsciously do this, prioritizing certain tasks, because there isn't an infinite amount of time in the day. So if a place you walk in and you're like, wow, this is really, really bad, you're gonna find yourself, as I said, prioritizing certain things. So other areas maybe aren't gonna get as much attention because it's so dirty that you wanna bring up the standard in general everywhere, but something maybe will get neglected. So you carry out the clean, and I'm sure a lot of you can relate to this. At the end of the clean, you've got a happy customer, because in their eyes, it's gone from a property that looks terrible, and they've probably lived in that terrible looking property for so long that they can't really remember exactly how it looked when they first moved in. And they're probably gonna say to you, because we've had this many times, they're gonna say, wow, this is cleaner than when we moved in. And you're gonna remember that, and you're gonna go, okay, that's a red flag. When you hear that, that normally means bad things are coming. When they say this is cleaner than when they moved in, should I say. And yeah, because from the client's point of view, you also got to remember this. Quite often, when they're getting an end of tenancy clean, they're not getting any of the benefit of it. They're not getting the clean, and then they're not going to get the enjoyment of living in this nice, clean environment. They are literally getting this clean done because it is in their tenancy agreement, in their contract. They have to get the clean done. So they're almost reluctant about getting it done. And then they get it done, and it's like, oh wow, this is really clean. This looks amazing. But essentially all it was a checkbox exercise for them. So they're not actually that invested in it. They're just getting it done. It's actually a bit of an inconvenience. They're having to maybe take time off work to let you in and come and like be there at the end of the clean. It's not what they want to be doing, put it that way, okay? So you've got a happy customer at the end of the clean because it's like, wow, what a transformation. The problem comes is when the letting agent comes to do their check, because they are not looking for the exact same things as the customer that has hired you to do the job. They have their own checklist or their own inventory list, and if it doesn't match what the condition of the house was when you moved in, should I say, obviously there's something called fair wear and tear, but we're not talking about that. If there are certain things that are dirty, they are going to have a problem with that, and they're going to put that back onto the tenant, which is your customer, and that's where the problems start to happen. So some certain things that we have, or we used to have problems with in the past, were the client coming back and saying, oh, the walls weren't washed, which isn't a typical thing to include in an end of tenancy clean. That isn't something that would be done as standard, not by us anyway, and not by any cleaning companies I have come across. That is something that some companies will add on, but typically you wouldn't just assume that was included in an end of tenancy clean. And I think if the customers that have complained about this in the past, if they're being honest, they probably haven't even considered that to be a problem or something that they needed to do. But if the walls are dirty because maybe you had children drawing on them, putting stickers on them, from smoke, from tobacco smoke, for whatever reason, that's not going to sit well with your letting agent or landlord. So it's kind of understandable. Another one, outside windows not being cleaned. That wouldn't be typically included in an end of tenancy clean. That is something for a window cleaning company to deal with. There's a reason that window cleaning companies exist. So it's quite a specialist thing, especially if you're at height. And another one, appliances being cleaned. Now, obviously, you might think, oh, that should be included in an end of tenancy clean, but they take a long time to do, so that would typically be an add-on. But we're going to get to how you solve these problems in a minute, but these are just some of the problems we have encountered in our business. Okay, so that's the result. Quite often you've got a letting agent or landlord who is not pleased with the standard of the clean. So what happens is you get an angry customer. And they're not pleased with you and they want their money back, or they want you to come back and fix it, which is essentially the same as taking money off you, because it obviously costs time and money to go back and do that. And you might say to them, well, you didn't pay for those things. The things that you're coming to me complaining about, you didn't pay for. So I'm in a bit of a situation here where it's actually not my fault, and it's not necessarily their fault, but because certain things weren't clarified at the time of booking, this is the situation we're in. So the result of that is stress for you. And what might happen is the letting agent might come back and say, we want to use our own cleaning company, and then they're going to charge that tenant, which is then going to make the tenant, the customer, even more annoyed at you. So the result is stress, basically. Refunds, bad reviews, and stress in general, which we don't want. So what is the solution? Well, we have 6 things that we have implemented in our business that didn't eradicate this problem altogether. Let me make that clear. It does not completely eradicate the problem, but it does make the problem way less frequent. It makes it happen way less frequent. So let's just quickly look through these things and see what we can do. So the first thing we can do, before you book the client in for their job, you need to tell them what is included, what isn't included, and you want to get confirmation of this in writing, so that if this situation arises, you can point back to an email or some sort of written contract, but an email is fine, and you can say, oh, hang on, you're saying I didn't wash the walls, but in this email here, I have literally said to you, before we book in, I just need you to confirm that you understand that wall washing is not included, you haven't selected for any appliances to be included, and the outside of the windows are not included, and any other things that are not included that you can think of. Make it crystal clear and in writing. And then when it does come back, it makes the problem a lot more easier to deal with, because you can say, well, you haven't paid for those things, so that is why they weren't done. Okay, it's pretty obvious, but you'd be amazed at how easy it is to gloss over that and not do that, just for the sake of saving yourself 5-10 minutes. It's gonna save you a headache in the long run. So I'm sure you can agree that makes sense. Second thing we can do, use checklists. When you're on the job, get your team, or you, whoever it is at the property, to use checklists. This way, you know everything you said to the client you're gonna do, skirting boards, inside of the windows, whatever it might be, in each and every room, you know you can go through this checklist and say, okay, I've done that in this room, I've done that in this room, I've done it. And you know you're not gonna miss anything. So you're minimizing the chance of the comeback from someone saying you haven't done something, because you've got the checklist that you're working to. Again, seems obvious, but it's just that little bit more effort, making a checklist, printing out, or having it on your phone, however you want to do it, but it makes all the difference. What we actually used to do is have it on that carbon copy paper. So we'd have the checklist, and then we would give the customer a copy of the checklist with all the ticks on it, so they can see everything that's done at the end of the clean. That's a little bit extreme, but we like to go a bit above and beyond. The next thing you can do, at the end of the clean, do a walk around with the customer in every single room with the checklist and show them everything. It sounds extreme, it sounds like it's going to take a lot of time. Doesn't need to take a lot of time. You can literally go in every room and you show them what you've done, and you get them to acknowledge that you've done it. You don't need to say you've seen it for everything, but you are showing them. So you're painting a picture in their head, so that when they get the comeback from the estate agent, whoever it might be, letting agent or the landlord, they can say, oh, hang on, no, I saw that this was done. Or you can tell if the estate agent is being unreasonable or not, or they can tell, should I say. The fourth thing, tied in with the walk around, get the customer to sign off on the job. Get them to sign off to say they are happy with everything. So you have just a little sheet, a contract with a signature box and some writing on it, and it says, I am happy with the clean, or I'm happy with everything. And this can tie in with the checklist if you want to give them a checklist as well, and you can give them a copy of that. What we actually do as a bonus, we have a little box, an optional box they can fill in where they can rate the standard of the clean out of 10 and put any comments. And what you'll find is, because you know you've done a good job, more often than not, they're going to rate 10 out of 10 and say, great job, good job, guys. And that by them doing this, they have confirmed in their head that it was a good job. And also, if they do have any issues after that, you can point back to it and be like, oh, I'm a bit confused because we did the walk around, we showed you everything we did, you've signed off on it, and you've actually given us 10 out of 10 or whatever score they might be, and you said good job. So it doesn't add up. So it just puts everything in your favor a bit more and kind of makes it very clear that you have in fact done a good job. And not only that, you agreed, and these are your words, you in your own words have said we've done a good job. They're not always going to fill that out, but more often than not they are. Number 5, take before and after photos of the condition of the property. This is going to cover you, because sometimes we've had this. People will actually come into the property, maybe other tradespeople or anyone, after you've been in there and make a mess. We've had it where we have done a perfectly good job and then we get a complaint, and we actually get photos back showing that the bath's got hairs in it, or oh, there's a pile of dust here. And then we refer back to our own photos and they show that it's actually perfectly clean, and we can only kind of come to the conclusion that someone has taken a shower since we've been in that property, or someone has drilled a hole in the wall and put dust everywhere since we've been in there. So it's these little things that you think are going to take a long time. They don't need to take a long time. You get into the routine, the team goes straight in there, snap photos. At the end of the clean, snap photos. It's worth it in the long run. Okay, I'm sure a lot of you do this already as standard. And this is number 6. This is a good little bonus. You can offer what we call a re-clean guarantee, or a 72-hour guarantee, we call it. It doesn't have to be 72 hour, but what we offer with that is, if you have any problems with your letting agent and it's something that we have said we would do but we won't do, we will come back and sort that problem out. We will come back and clean it for free. We won't charge any extra. And how we do this is, we don't just offer it with every end of tenancy clean. We actually charge a percentage more, make that completely transparent to the customer. We can say, look, for 20% more fee, we will offer this re-clean guarantee as long as you come to us with any problems within 72 hours of the completion of the clean. We will come back and resolve any issues that you have with your landlord or letting agent. And what you'll find is, a lot of people will take you up on that, and most of the time you're not going to have any problems. So you're making that 20% extra. And then on the odd occasion where you do need to come back, you've got a very clear list of things they have issues with, and it's a case of just nipping in, getting those things done relatively quickly and getting out. And because they've given you that list, that checklist of things that they're not happy with, you just work to that, and you know anything else that they add afterwards isn't really fair and it isn't relevant, because you've gone back, you've made that effort, and you've done what they had a problem with. So those are the ways that we kind of eliminate the problems associated with end of tenancy cleans as best as we can. Now, there's no foolproof method. Sometimes people will just have a complaint. Sometimes the standard isn't going to be as high as you would like, and that can be for a number of reasons. We all know how sometimes it can be more difficult and there can be challenges, but for the most part, this is going to save you. This is going to save you a lot of headaches. So hopefully you found this useful. Let me know in the comments if there's anything that you want to add to that list, or anything you do in your business. I'll be very interested to hear from you. Also, do all that other YouTube stuff. I'm still very pleased with the 1 subscriber. You're an absolute legend, but it'd be great if some more of you could subscribe. So like the video, subscribe, hit that notification bell if you want, and I'll see you very soon. The end.